I think there still is always the uncertainty. Do I have enough?
The money is one small aspect of it that frees you up for greater levels of impact and significance and legacy. Sometimes you got to fail forward. So some of those early experiences that don't turn out well push you towards the next thing. It's more about mindset. The actions will follow a shift in mindset.
Well, there's a guilt factor, I would say, Andy, and I know this because I have been there too. I was there. A guilt factor that, as you said, if we're not making hay while the sun shines, then we feel guilty. I mean, I
Yeah.
should be there. That's my time. I trained to do this, and that's where the big business is that week or whenever it is for you or your business. And if I'm not there, but that's not freedom. So I believe, Andy, but I want you to articulate it in your own words. I believe that the problem that most relatively well-to-do people have a good business, have a good training, have a good career, they make good money at whatever they do, whatever their business. I think that there still is always the uncertainty. Do I have enough?
Sure.
Because if I take my foot off the pedal to enjoy some time with my family, if I take my foot off the pedal during that spring break week when all the business would be there and I can
Hmm.
multiply my income by 2x or whatever it is that week just by being there that week, but my family's going to be on their own vacation, that the reason I do that is because I feel guilty and also I'm uncertain. So,
Yep.
so how does the investment model that you have put together with Suzanne through your, I guess, part of your education in Freedom Founders, through the relationships in Freedom Founders, through the blueprint, the game plan that you have customized to yourself, how has that helped you with more certainty? Even, and I'm thinking even for people who are just starting that path, you can look back,
Yeah.
because you've been on the path for a number of years, but people are starting the path, even though they might be not exactly what we call free for life. That is where they have replaced the need for active income with passive income, but they can actually see there's certainty, there's milestones and say,
Yeah.
does that not make a difference?
It does. It's interesting you asked me that question because I had almost this identical conversation with one of my partners recently. As you know, he's just such a dear friend, and we're working sort of two separate financial models. In terms of how we want to achieve our financial freedom and independence, and he was saying like, well, you know, I'll get a couple more years down the road, then I'll be able to take my foot off the gas. I'll be able to slow down a little bit. And my question for him was, well, how will you know when you're there? And it was like no one had ever asked him that before, because the paradigm that he's working in is to just build up, build up, build up, save, 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 build this giant pile of money so that one day in the future, you'll be able to kind of siphon off of it and quote unquote retire. And no one had ever said, well, how do you know when you're there, right? And what benchmarks are you using to establish what that is? And so that is where the different model that we have in Freedom Founders, I think, allows for greater certainty and accelerated certainty, because no longer does it have to be put off to some distant sort of unknown day in the future, but using a model that, rather than based on accumulation of money or stocks or these paper assets, that then, if everything goes well and there's not too many down years, you can draw off of at a certain 4% annual rate. But it just seems really uncertain, you know, working within an alternative paradigm where wealth is built in tangible assets that produce cash flow. And that's the whole thing, is being able to engineer an investment portfolio that creates predictable recurring cash flow that one can very clearly see will replace active income. And it's when that starts happening that the whole mindset can begin to shift, because now I don't have to worry. That spring break, it became much more tangible, easy decision for me to make, because I know, like, okay, well, if I don't make this money this month, that's okay. It's not going to hurt me because I've got this predictable income. It's not just sitting somewhere, maybe growing. It's very sort of esoteric It's like, no, I get a check every month. And so, you know, and then once you work that blueprint and get really down to the um, granular level of like, okay, how much money do I need to pay my bills and support the basics of my lifestyle, and then how can I reverse engineer that with passive income, um, to get to a point of being able to either work or not work. So
One of the things that I can say here today, because we're not going to release this podcast, Andy, until after our August Freedom Founders meeting, but I can say that Andy is one of our newest Free for Life members, which means he and Suzanne, through their decision-making process and building a platform of assets that provide that passive income, truly passive, because you're not having to manage any of it, that you have covered your bases and then some as far as your lifestyle needs. Now, you're only 42 years old. I wouldn't expect you to retire out to the golf green or to a hammock. That's not what we do. It's just a next stage, but it takes the pressure off. So as you said, you can take more time off. You can take those spring breaks off. You can go enjoy and realize that you don't have to be there grinding it out, like most people feel like, and having that guilt feeling that I should be doing this and I'm taking time off. So you have that piece. What I'd like to know from you, Andy, if you were speaking again to another colleague, about why you believe that tangible assets like real estate work, and maybe it's a little bit the model we have in Freedom Founders, which it's not somewhere where you go, Andy, and you hear kind of like the pitch of the day, meaning, oh,
right.
somebody's got this multifamily syndication in, wherever, or they've got some, and it's like, oh, well, everybody like, who wants in on this deal? We really base it, on the education, the principles, but then it's the ability to implement through the relationships. Do you want to talk a little bit about why you believe the relationships are made before you make investments, how important that is to you and Suzanne?
Yeah, it's huge, because the people are more important really than the investment or the asset. I mean, you can learn about and be as savvy as you want to be in terms of understanding real estate, alternative investment world, but if you're working with either unscrupulous, dishonest, or incompetent operators, um, those things can torpedo you, right? So having the relationships with people in that space that you can feel comfortable that they have a proven track record, and that's part of what the mastermind brings, is the confidence, because it doesn't have to just be based on my relationship. It's based on your relationship. It's based upon the relationship of the people in the room, the collective relationship of people who have been part of this for 5, 7, 8, 10 years, going back even longer than that with your relationships. And so you get a sense of the track records of the operators that you're working with, and you can invest with them with a higher degree of confidence, knowing that you're dealing with good people who, that's not to say that everything's going to go perfectly all the time, but at least you're working with people that you can know are trustworthy. And, that's a starting point for things to go really well.
I often say, Andy, that many of us are very much like to feel like we're self-sufficient. I mean, like, look, going through school, right? Achieving the different levels of education. Do it by yourself. You don't get to look over on your buddy's test or over the cadavers and gross anatomy and ask, what was that? I missed that last week. We got to do it ourselves is my point. So we get in that self-sufficiency model, right? And, the people we hang with, they're definitely have good work ethic and intelligent people. And, I think we feel like a lot of times, Andy, that we should be able to do everything. I mean, because we found some things we can do well. We focused on certain things and we got there. We you've done well, but doesn't mean we can do everything well, because there's just not enough time. It doesn't have anything to do with inability. The fact that you've tried some spec houses, we know lots of people who come to Freedom Founders who have tried, dipped their hand in real estate from different forms of fashion. And I'm not saying it all went bad, but a lot of times, it didn't go well. There's always those stories, always those stories. And again, I try to tell those people, don't look back with regret. Look at the fact that you did something, because doing something actually prompted you to do something else, right? To find the right pathway for you. And whether it's Freedom Founders or something else, you're on a drive to not live a traditional, ordinary life, but to have something that you want more, not more materialism, but as you said earlier, more time, more time. So what about the what about the we talk about the track record. I think in terms of people that, if I was, fighting a war, whether you want to talk about literal or figuratively, but who do you want to be in the trenches with, right?
Hmm.
And you just say just life in general, but who do you want to collaborate with? Who has your back, or who do you want to do things with if there's to be a synergy? In this case, we're talking about investing in real estate. Well, I don't want to go out and find my own houses and property and tenants and contractors, and I don't think you do either. That's not on your bucket list, at least not
Right.
what I've heard of. You want those other experiences, so we got to find the other people, right? Or just like in your own business, in your practice, you have partners. Well, that takes some curation. That takes some finessing. You don't just put out the for help help one sign and just take the first person. Same thing with real estate. You've got to, as you said, develop the relationship with the right people. So not everything goes in perfectly in life, but if you're aligned with people who have character, track record, integrity, I don't know who I'd want to be, in the trenches with, other than people that who have gone through and have the war stories and have shown what their character and is always doing the right thing based on whatever the market allows to happen. If something does go bad, something goes to go down, we have a market correction, whatever. We had COVID last year, and we saw how the people we invest with were rock stars in how they communicated with not only us, but also the people who pay the rent, and just mitigated a lot of potential damage that way. So I kind of dropped a lot of bombs
Yep.
on you right there. Why don't you just pick what you want to and add to it?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of things come to mind. Sometimes you got to fail forward. And so some of those early experiences that don't turn out well push you towards the next thing. And then I would also say, one of the things that has kind of dawned on me over my experience the last few years with Freedom Founders has just been that if you want conventional results, then continue taking conventional steps, conventional actions. Um, if you want something different, something out of the ordinary, I mean, the ordinary dentist works until they're 65, 70, and retires and takes a decrease in their lifestyle. Um, or worse yet, has to work until they're much past where they probably should be working. Um, and so, you know, it's more about mindset than it is. The actions will follow a shift in mindset towards being willing to take some unconventional steps to go against the grain of what everybody else is doing to build a different type of life. And as far as the people that you go into trenches with, certainly the trusted advisors that we work with in Freedom Founders are those guys. But one of the real sort of unexpected joys of being a part of this group for the last 4 years has been the relationships that I've formed uh, with the other members. And there's a bunch of them that have been really special, but there's a small group in particular of guys who I consider, some of my best friends in the world now, that we meet and we have a call every week to hold each other accountable and to spur each other on to action, because we're all striving. Not it's not the money is That's one small aspect of it that frees you up for what I think we're really striving for, which is greater levels of impact and significance and legacy. um, and that's where, for me, it's starting to get exciting, because I'm now being able to have my mind open up to what the possibilities are. Um, And I'm not really even sure how that looks. I know that I'm not gonna like quit practicing right away because I'm at the prime of my career. I feel like I'm doing this really well, and I've got some more gas in the tank. But it's exciting to think about how, well, if I don't have to work as hard, then what other areas can I um, can I excel at that can bring meaning not just to me but to the people that whoever might be involved. Maybe that's sharing my what I've learned in the financial freedom real estate world with people around me. And there's the elevating people around me. Maybe it's doing more mission surgery. Um, I don't exactly know how that's all going to look, but I'm just starting to kind of creep into that, and that's where it's starting to get fun because I'm imagining possibilities that go beyond just me like having my head down, yanking teeth as fast as I can.
Andy, I think it's all, I think there still is always the uncertainty. Do I have enough?
The money is one small aspect of it that frees you up for greater levels of impact and significance and legacy. Sometimes you got to fail forward. So some of those early experiences that don't turn out well push you towards the next thing. If you want conventional results, then continue taking conventional steps, conventional actions. If you want something different, it's more about mindset. The actions will follow a shift in mindset. Thanks.
We're blessed. We have many like you, as you know, in Freedom Founders, and I think that's even the bigger blessing is there's so many that are of kindred spirits. As you said, you make many good friends there, and that's part of the journey is doing it with people that you like to hang around with, right? And not people that don't fit your modus operandi. So
Absolutely. Yep.
well, we're going to see you in just a few weeks. Looking forward to that. And thanks for sharing your story and your insights today. I think it's very helpful. Just again for people to have a chance to hear another side, another way to do things that maybe will pique the interest of some people.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. Always enjoy any chance we have to visit. And I'm certainly would welcome anybody who's on the fence about this to reach out to me. You can find me on Facebook or andy.baber@gmail.com. I'm always happy to share my experience with other professionals.
Well, Andy, thank you so much. We'll talk soon. If you enjoyed watching or learning from this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more content. If you have a question about any of my content or this specific video, just please leave a comment down below. And as always, stay focused on your freedom. I'll see you next time.